Welcome to Red Cherry Audio, following the boss to a KTV to meet an important client. The moment I stepped into the private room, I saw my biological brother sitting there, his face contorted in an extremely irritating, mocking smile. He beckoned me over to sit next to him, then ordered me to sing Little Love Song for him. While his mouth was criticizing my clothes, his hands were getting ready to mess around. I suddenly felt mischievous and started flirting playfully with my brother, completely disregarding the gloomy expression of my boss who was sitting beside us. While waiting for my brother to go to the restroom, I leaned in and whispered, "Boss, am I very good at socializing?" The boss gritted his teeth, almost cracking his jaw. "If you're so good at socializing, then go home with him tonight." When my brother returned, I immediately snuggled up and pouted, "CEO Jiang, I want to go to your house tonight." His face instantly changed color. "Damn it. How did you know Mom is making stewed duck soup tonight?" The boss took a call and returned to find the room completely empty, freezing on the spot. Midnight. I was woken up because I drank too much duck soup. The moment I opened my phone, I saw over 99 messages. Zhang Shui. I was just kidding. Did you really go home with him? Come back now. Or don't bother coming to work tomorrow. Just kidding, just kidding. Your professional skills are excellent. I've decided to give you a raise. Do you really only want to latch onto a rich sugar daddy? Okay, I'll be honest, my dad is the richest man in Jiangzhou. I'm more handsome than he is, and I have a six-pack. Come back here and latch onto me. Where are you? Answer my message, ah! Chapter 1, The Excellent Plan. Before I pushed open the heavy KTV door, the atmosphere between myself and Qin Li, the boss, was already subtly strange. Before coming here, he had said one single cold sentence. Close the deal with the young master of the Zhang family, and the bonus will be doubled. I nodded in agreement, but my mind was elsewhere. Lately, Qin Li's gaze toward me always carried a faint, hard-to-detect focus. In meetings, his eyes lingered on me longer than anyone else. And I also had my own private thoughts. So, when I clearly saw the young master of the Zhang family sitting cross-legged on the sofa, grinning, who was my own brother, Jiang Shangqing, a brilliant plan immediately formed in my head. I couldn't understand why my brother was so eccentric as to choose a KTV for a business talk. But never mind. I'll just go with the flow and take this chance to see if Qin Li genuinely cared about me. On the other side, Jiang Shangqing had also spotted me, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Qin Li had just begun the introduction. "Director Jiang, this is my key staff member, Zhang Shui. We have some excellent proposals for this project." Jiang Shangqing waved his hand, cutting him off, and patted the empty spot beside him. "No rush." His voice, familiar from my entire childhood, the one that always made me want to punch him, rang out. "Oh, this little sister. She's quite pretty. Come sit with Big Brother." I understood. This unlucky guy wanted to roast me over the fire. Fine, go ahead and roast. Who's afraid of whom? I'm better at this game. I immediately put on a sweet, fake smile, ignored Qin Li's darkening face, and walked straight over to sit down. "Hello, Director Jiang." Jiang Shangqing pressed his advantage, reaching out to lift my chin and examine me. "Wearing so little, aren't you cold? Young ladies need to take care of themselves." I simultaneously blushed and awkwardly avoided his touch while smiling without change. "Thank you for your concern. Director Jiang, I'm not cold." Inside, I was cursing him 10,000 times over. Just then, I distinctly heard a subtle crack, the sound of tightly clenched knuckles beside me. I turned to look at Qin Li. He was staring intently at the glass of wine in his hand. His chiseled facial features were cold, his jaw clenched tight as a stone. I suddenly felt like teasing him more. "Director Jiang, let me sing a song for you." I stood up, my voice deliberately drawn out and sweet. "What would you like to hear?" While selecting the song, I could feel two gazes locked tightly on my back. One was full of amusement. The other was ice cold, as if it was about to pierce right through me. I deliberately chose a corny, old love song that my brother and I used to listen to as kids. The moment I turned back, I saw Jiang Shangqing clutching his stomach. His shoulders were suspiciously shaking. He squirmed to his feet, his face twisted. "You two continue talking. I need to use the restroom?" Haha. Bit urgent. He practically fled, clearly having held back laughter to his limit. Once he left, only Qin Li and I remained in the room, shrouded in a blanket of suffocating low pressure. I immediately slid over and sat close to him, so close I could smell his cool cologne mixed with a repressed anger. "Boss." I tilted my head, blinking. How did I perform? Was I good at handling the situation? Chinli abruptly turned his head. The distance was so close our noses nearly touched. His voice hissed through his teeth, carrying the weight of his irritation. If you're so good at socializing, then go home with him tonight. Oh ho, this level of jealousy is intense. I was about to add fuel to the fire when his phone suddenly vibrated. Chinli glanced at the screen, his eyebrows instantly furrowing. He gave me a complex look, then looked at Jiang Shangqing, who was humming a tune and happily returning. Finally, extremely unwillingly, he picked up the call and quickly walked out of the room. His face frigid, Jiang Shangqing returned and resumed his role as the carefree playboy. Lazily sitting down next to me, I leaned closer, lowering my voice, mixing in a hint of blame and familiarity only siblings understood. Had enough fun? Is mom rushing you again? Jiang Shangqing's lazy face instantly froze, as if someone had hit the pause button. He instinctively reacted. Damn it. That's right. Mom's making stewed duck soup tonight. He completely forgot the persona he was acting, and even the project and the contract. Reflexively, he grabbed my wrist. Just like when he used to drag me home to do homework as a kid. Natural and urgent. Quick, quick, quick. Let's go. Dad will eat it all if we're late. He acted with practiced ease, grabbing my handbag and pulling me out like a whirlwind. Left alone in the room was Chinli, the person who had just finished his call and returned. Seeing the empty room, he stood rooted to the spot, thunderstruck. Chapter 2. The Taste of Vinegar and Vengeance. That night, my phone was bombed with messages from Chinli. I scrolled through the screen, looking at the long series of bright red exclamation points. I could almost picture him gritting his teeth, unable to do anything. But I simply and gently switched my phone to silent mode and tucked it under my pillow. Then I happily finished my second bowl of duck soup. Honestly, I squeezed into Chinli's company, famous for its high salary but also sky-high workload, to prove one thing to my silly brother and stubborn father. Leaving the Zhang family, I, Jiang Shui, can also make a good living on my own, despite being constantly frozen by Chinli's cold aura, considering the salary and opportunities for growth. This job was worth it. The next morning, I pretended not to see the 99+ unread messages. I even deliberately brought the duck soup my mother made, Zheng in a thermos, to the office. Wow, Shui Yi, that soup looks delicious. My colleague sitting next to me, Xiaolin, poked her head over, her eyes sparkling like stars. You and Director Zhang are serious. Only known each other for one night and he's already covering your breakfast? What kind of fairy tale romance is this? I unscrewed the thermos lid and the rich aroma of stewed duck soup instantly filled the office. I took a deep breath, then replied in a voice neither too loud nor too soft. Just enough for the entire office to hear. Yeah. Director Jiang said I had a tough time handling the situation yesterday, so he specially asked his family to wake up early and make soup to nourish me. A sharp, knife-like glare instantly pierced my back. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. That chilling, low-pressure atmosphere could only belong to our CEO, Mr. Qin. Zhang Shui. Chinli's voice sounded behind me, cold enough to freeze the air. The surrounding space immediately fell into a deadly silence. Xiaolin jumped, immediately lowering her head and pretending to work diligently. I slowly turned around, wearing a perfectly composed professional smile. Good morning, CEO Qin, he didn't bother to reply. His bloodshot, sleep-deprived eyes were fixed on me, his gaze almost spitting fire. He advanced toward my desk, step by step. Thud! A thick folder of documents was forcefully slammed onto the desk, creating a shocking sound. The entire office flinched, shoulders hunching up. Since Director Jiang pities you so much, seeing how hard you worked? Chinli gritted his teeth, each word pulled out from between his back molars. He leaned down close enough for his breath to touch my face. His voice lowered, but the pressure was heavier than anything. Then you must be full of energy today. When he said that, his eyes bore through me, as if trying to strip me bare. I could even sense the vinegar and hurt rising in his tone. I suddenly felt a little pang of sympathy, wanting to tell him the truth. But I also cherished his look of jealousy too much to ruin it. The very next second, he crushed my illusion without mercy. The unfinished project from last week that no one has touched. You follow up on it. Before the end of work today, I want to see a completely new, polished feasibility report. If it's not done, don't leave work. The entire office sank into a chilling silence. Everyone looked at me with deep sympathy. That project, everyone in the company knew, was a deadly pit. Anyone who touched it fell in. It had been rotting for nearly 2 years. Writing a feasibility report in one day? Even a deity would just shake their head. This wasn't just punishment. This was a straight-up execution. The smile on my face stiffened. Okay, fine, Mr. Kin. Playing dirty now, huh? I took a deep breath, reached for the heavy folder in front of me, and hugged it close. Then I looked up, meeting Chinley's angry eyes, and smiled even sweeter. Yes, CEO Chin, I guarantee I will complete the task. I paused intentionally, then shook the thermos in my hand. After drinking the duck soup Director Zhang sent, I'm bursting with energy. Don't talk about one report, I can handle 2. Chinley's chest heaved violently, his jaw clenched. His eyes looked at me as if he wanted to swallow both me and my desk out of spite. Finally, he ground out 2 words. Very good. With that, he turned sharply and strode straight toward his office. Bang! The CEO's office door was slammed shut, so hard the entire glass wall rattled. The whole office held its breath. Only I remained calm, sitting down, unscrewing the thermos, and taking another sip of the hot duck soup. It really is delicious. I looked at the closed door, and my heart suddenly softened a little. The red streaks in his eyes and the dark circles were real. I took out my phone and sent a message to my damned brother. This is all your fault. My boss is about to be furious. He gave me an impossible task. Jiang Shangqing replied instantly, Oh, pitying your boss now, are we? Need a hand? Go away. Who pities him? I'm just afraid he'll get sick from anger and then no one will pay me. But I remember you worked on a similar project back then, didn't you? Wait a moment. 10 minutes later, an encrypted industry data file with an analysis model was sent to my inbox. P.S. No need to thank me. Covering for my future brother-in-law is my duty. Shut up, busybody. I cursed him, but my hands were already quickly starting to study the material. I knew Chinley required real quality. I couldn't just hand in a messy report, and my brother's material was truly a timely savior. Chapter 3. An Uncontrolled Jealousy. The next morning, the moment I stepped into the company, I felt something was wrong. The atmosphere was shrouded in a strange, silent, murderous aura. The receptionist saw me and blinked frantically, her mouth forming clear words, "Run." Colleagues were all hunched over their computers, the sound of typing unusually soft. The entire office was quiet, as if they had just collectively attended a funeral. I understood. The low-pressure field of CEO Chin had officially engulfed the entire company. I calmly walked to my seat, put down my bag, and turned on my computer. Before my butt even touched the chair, the internal phone rang. Chinley's voice came through, cold as a knife. Zhang Xueyi, bring your proposal to the meeting room, immediately. When I walked in, all the department heads were already seated. Chinley was in the main seat, his face darker than the dim KTV lighting from the other night. His entire being radiated an aura of do not approach. I distributed the plan and began my presentation. Throughout the entire process, Chinley did not say a word. He only used his bottomless gaze, locked straight onto me. Only when I finished did he speak. His voice was icy without a trace of emotion. Page 3. The cited industry report is from 3 months ago. I need this week's updated figures. Page 5. The market estimation model is too ideal. The risk-weighting coefficient is undervalued by at least 15%. Page 12. The core competitive advantage analysis is too vague, buried in redundant information. Redo it. His slender fingers tapped rhythmically on the table. The rhythm was steady, but the invisible pressure behind each tap felt like it was hammering everyone's hearts. Each question was more specialized, more cutting. Each word spoken was colder and harsher. The entire meeting room was enveloped in a freezing atmosphere. This meeting was no longer a business discussion. It was a specialized trial reserved solely for me. Everyone else didn't dare to breathe deeply, afraid of being caught in the invisible crossfire. I was slightly surprised, but quickly calmed down. Throughout the entire process, I maintained a professional smile and an absolutely calm demeanor. Skillfully utilizing the internal data and analysis framework my brother provided, I confidently responded to each point. The latest data requires access rights from the specialized agency. I will handle it immediately after the meeting and supplement it within an hour. The risk coefficient has been recalibrated according to your proposal. The updated version will be synced immediately. For the competitive advantage analysis, I will condense the focus and optimize it within half an hour. The smoother my answers were, the darker the blackness in Chinli's eyes became. That cold gaze scanned me repeatedly, as if trying to dig out the smallest flaw. But seeing my coherent, unhesitating responses, his eyes seemed to retract uncomfortably, as if burnt. A subtle flash of annoyance, not easily noticeable, crossed his eyes. Finally, after I had successfully blocked all his professional attacks, he was utterly speechless. The meeting room fell into a cutting silence. I looked at his mountain of ice face that was about to lose its composure, and the faint dark circles under his eyes made my heart suddenly soften. The playful urge faded. It was replaced by a strange feeling, as if I had just realized something. Chinli didn't actually want to give me a hard time. He was using this extreme method to confirm something, or more accurately, to vent a kind of silent control. And care? I picked up my glass of water, took a small sip. Then I looked straight into his eyes, my gaze clear, my voice slow. CEO Chin, did you lose sleep last night? The project is important, but your health is even more so. Having said that, I lowered my head, pretending to focus on tidying my documents. The entire meeting room was dead silent. Everyone looked at me as if they had just witnessed a bizarre plot twist. Chinli was clearly not expecting me to say that. The sharpness on his face instantly froze, replaced by an unfamiliar confusion. He looked at my flushed ears, then at the perfect report in front of him. The choking feeling in his chest seemed to be stuck halfway, neither rising nor falling. The momentum that was raging moments ago instantly collapsed. He parted his lips, as if to say something. But in the end, he just looked away, jumping up as if his chair was on fire. His voice was dry, only managing 2 words. Dismissed. And then he practically fled the meeting room. The entire room was completely quiet. All eyes turned toward me, filled with respect. After the meeting, I returned to my desk, my heart still thumping. The internal phone rang again, still Chinli. I answered, feeling uneasy. CEO Chin? Silence on the other end for a few seconds. His voice sounded devoid of emotion, but no longer as cold as before. The report? Send it back to me when you've finished revising it. Yes, CEO. Another stretch of silence. He hummed in acknowledgement but didn't hang up. I held the receiver, not knowing what to say. After a long time, his voice came through again, deeper than before, slightly fast-paced, carrying a hint of awkwardness. That soup? Huh? Nothing. Bye. Beep. He hung up. I stood there, still holding the phone, stunned. Did he or just ask about the soup? Just then, a WeChat notification sounded. I picked it up. It was a file sent by Chinli. Below it was a cold line of text. Company internal document for reference only. Must submit the report before closing time today. I looked at the data file he would never easily give anyone. Then I remembered his awkward tone on the phone just now. I couldn't help it anymore. I put my face in my hands, which were burning hot, and slumped onto the desk. I'm done for, Zhang Shuiyi. It seems you played a bit too hard this time. Meanwhile, inside the CEO's office, Chinli watched the typing indicator appear and then disappear on his phone screen, repeating several times, but ultimately no message was sent. He frustratingly loosened his tie, but the corner of his mouth unintentionally, very slightly, curved up. Chapter 4. The Six-Pack CEO in Action. That afternoon, the company lobby was suddenly shaken. A fiery red Ferrari parked outside the company, so dazzling that all eyes were drawn to it. The car door opened and a man stepped out. His perfectly tailored high-end suit accentuated his broad shoulders and long legs. Hair neatly styled, sunglasses hiding half his face, only revealing the corner of his mouth drawn in a lazy, charming smile. He leaned against the car, one hand in his pocket, a quintessential mobile hormone dispenser. All the female colleagues who hadn't left work yet glued their eyes to him, nearly crushing the glass window. Oh my God, who is that? So handsome! That's the top model Ferrari? Must be a super CEO. I looked at the man posing below, my forehead twitching. Jiang Shangqing. My brother. What are you doing here? Not long after, the internal phone rang. The receptionist's voice was excitedly on the verge of breaking. Sister Zuei! Downstairs. There's a super handsome hunk in a Ferrari looking for you. I took a deep breath, and under the intense scrutiny of the entire office, I went downstairs. Zhang Shangqing took off his sunglasses, his familiar flirtatious eyes winking at me. He shook a file bag in his hand. "Little Yi, you forgot your documents at home this morning. Mom asked me to bring them over for you." As he spoke, he raised his hand extremely naturally and intimately and patted my head. The movement was practiced as if he had done it thousands of times. Then he leaned down, lowering his voice just enough for me to hear. "If we're going to act, let's go all the way." Immediately, he returned to his nonchalant playboy posture, his voice loud enough for my eavesdropping colleagues to hear clearly. "What do you want to eat tonight? I'll take you out." A chorus of disappointed sighs sounded around us. It sounded like someone's heart was being choked. Meanwhile, my eyes subtly glanced toward the floor above. The CEO's office? Behind the window curtain, a gaze was locked tightly downwards. Chinli was standing there, silently watching me. I couldn't clearly see his expression. But the department head who had just stepped out of his office had a pale face and trembling legs, muttering, "It's over." CEO Chin's face is black as a storm cloud. Whoever provoked him today is done for. My brother's appearance had officially detonated Chinli's jar of vinegar. Chinli couldn't tolerate it any longer. He decided he had to clearly show Jiang Shuiyi, who was truly worthy of her reliance. He immediately used his connections to investigate, confirming that the director Jiang was indeed linked to Shuiyi. But the specific relationship was shrouded in fog. He couldn't find out. This only made him more irritated. In his fury, he made a decision. Under the guise of rewarding the project team, he organized a large-scale team-building event. The location, a luxury hot spring resort in the suburbs. That resort was an asset directly owned by the Chin Group. He wanted to be on his territory, to show that Jiang Gai what a true host was, and Chin Li, indeed, didn't disappoint me. His style of CEO pursuing a lover was truly the classic, clumsy textbook example. One moment he was walking by, coincidentally carrying a plate of cantaloupe. The next he was holding a thin blanket, frowning and asking if I was cold because the mountain wind was strong. I gleefully enjoyed it, leisurely accepting all of his silly yet genuine concern. I even intentionally asked, "CEO Chin, don't you think you're treating me a little too well?" His ears flushed red, but his voice remained rigid. "You are my employee. I can't let you catch a cold and affect your work progress." I smiled without answering, but my heart was sweet as if dipped in honey. It was pure enjoyment. As dusk settled, I was soaking in the hot spring, scrolling on my phone. The resort manager rushed over in a panic, his forehead slick with sweat. He ran to Chin Li, his voice trembling. "CEO Chin, we have a problem. Director Zhang from the Zhang Group is also here. He said he came to check the cooperation progress, and he's currently sitting in the tea room." Chin Li froze. Then the corner of his mouth curved into a chilling arc. He immediately assumed Zhang Shangqing came for me. He chased me all the way to my territory, to challenge me. The outdoor tea room of the resort was designed with a strong ancient flair. Jiang Shangqing was sitting there alone, leisurely sipping tea. As he drank, he admired the mountain view, looking utterly relaxed. Chin Li approached like a whirlwind, every step carrying the smell of gunpowder. Director Zhang certainly has a taste for leisure. He stood by the table, his voice pouring down from above. "Chasing my company's employee all the way to my territory, have you?" Jiang Shangqing looked up, gazing at him with a bewildered expression. "Huh?" Chin Li slightly tilted his chin, his eyes carrying an undisguised provocation and possessiveness. "I'm warning you." His voice was low, cold as a cutting knife. "Stay away from Jiang Shuiyi." Jiang Shangqing was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter at that commanding tone. He hated that condescending tone the most. "Your company's employee?" He sneered, leaning back in his chair, picking up the teacup. His manner relaxed. "Maybe tomorrow she'll be working for my company instead." He looked up, his eyes sharp as a blade, drilling into Chin Li. "What I want to do? How is it any of your business?" The two men were locked in a gaze. One's eyes were cold as ice. The other's lips curved in a faint smile, but there was no amusement in his eyes. The air around them crackled, full of sparks. A battle was about to erupt, just as the two were locked in a confrontation as if about to resort to violence. I, having just finished bathing, leisurely found them. "Huh? Sep? Why are you two here?" I looked blankly at the two men standing opposite each other. "What on?" Chin Li froze as if hit by a club, his entire body stiffening. Unaware of his strange reaction, I even kindly pointed to the man lazily standing beside me with his arms crossed, formally introducing them. Boss, this is my biological brother, Jiang Shangqing. The silence lasted for 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough for the world to explode and be reborn. Qin Li's face. Began the ultimate Sichuan opera face-changing performance. From pale, flushing red, then turning green. In his head, the relentless messages he had bombed me with that night echoed, "My father is the richest man in Jiangzhou. I'm more handsome than he is. I have a six-pack too. Come back and latch on to me." Social suicide. This was a cosmic death sentence. Qin Li only wished he could vanish on the spot, or find a hole to crawl into. Preferably a deep hole leading straight to the Earth's core so he wouldn't have to face anyone again. Meanwhile, my brother, after a few seconds of shock, finally realized what had just happened. At first it was a quiet chuckle, then the laughter exploded, shaking the heavens and the earth. My brother laughed and pointed straight at Qin Li, bending over with laughter, tears streaming down his face. "Director Qin, you're the one who wanted to compete with me for my sister. The six-pack guy, was it?" Chapter 5. Checking the goods on. The drive back to the resort, Qin Li played dead the entire time. He leaned his head against the window, his eyes tightly shut, his jaw clenched. Despite my brother sitting next to him constantly pouring oil on the fire, calling him future brother-in-law over and over again, he didn't utter a word, telling himself, "If I'm not embarrassed, the embarrassment belongs to others." It was a pity that his flushed red ears betrayed him. The next morning at work, Qin Li tried to salvage his shattered cold CEO image. He walked past my desk, eyes straight ahead, his steps firm, an aura of wind blowing around him. Too bad. When I looked up to greet him, he blushed at the ears. I suppressed my laughter until I almost suffered internal injuries, waiting for him to enter his office before slowly following him in. CEO Qin. I smiled mischievously, shaking my phone in front of him. I opened the screenshot of our chat, holding it close to his face. On the screen, the line read, "Come back and latch onto me." 3 huge, arrogant, and dazzling exclamation marks. Regarding this latching onto a sugar daddy matter, shouldn't we discuss it in more detail? I leaned in close, lowering my voice, my breath brushing against his already red ear. For example, that six-pack thing. Excuse me, do you support on-site inspection of the goods? The domineering CEO image Qin Li had painstakingly built, along with the last bit of remaining dignity, completely collapsed at that moment. He sprang up from his chair as if there were springs under his butt. Both embarrassed and angry, his entire face was so red it looked like it was about to bleed. "Jiang Shui! I was wrong. Can you please delete that chat? Please." The mask was ruthlessly torn off by me. Qin Li decisively threw in the towel, abandoning the cold CEO persona. Thus, he officially entered the phase of direct pursuit, clumsy, yet both awkward and hilarious. The daily breakfast of love, which was originally the duck soup I had lied about being from Director Zhang, now turned into a hot breakfast personally carried by Qin Li to the office. He still maintained a cold expression, his voice so awkward no one would believe him. It was on the way, so I bought it. After work, his car was always parked downstairs on time. The reason was still the recycled excuse that made the whole company want to roll their eyes. It was on the way, so I'm dropping you home. On the weekend, he sent a private message. "Jiang Shui, there's a detail we need to discuss in person. 2 p.m., Museum Gate." The entire company, from the receptionist to the cleaning lady, understood everything. But no one dared to speak out loud. They just silently gossiped in the chat group, betting on when CEO Qin would finally win her over, and me looking at the man who was clearly so nervous his hands were sweating, yet still trying to act calm and composed. I suddenly felt terribly fond of him. Chapter 6. The Ultimate Confession. After the 81 calamities my brother created, the relationship between Qin Li and me deepened with each passing day. His gaze toward me grew hotter and hotter, like a long-suppressed fire, just waiting to explode. One weekend evening, Qin Li invited me for a walk by the river. The gentle wind was pleasant. Under the city lights reflecting on the water, the ripples sparkled. The atmosphere was just romantic enough. We walked side by side, silent for a long stretch. Suddenly, he stopped, turning to face me. The streetlights cast a soft glow on his cold face. He took a deep breath, his Adam's apple moving subtly. His deep eyes shone with a chaotic mix of emotions, anxiety, anticipation, and recklessness. Shui. His voice was husky, deeper than usual. Actually, I've liked you for a long time. It's here! The crucial part is coming. My heart skipped a beat, my palms pouring sweat. But just before he could finish the sentence, my phone rang at maximum volume. On the screen, 2 big words clearly displayed, Jiang Shangqing. I clumsily answered the video call. My brother's big, handsome face appeared on the screen. The background sound a dog barking. Sister, look! Mom just bought a dog. Don't you think it's stupid? Ha ha ha. In the video, a silly white samoyed was spinning in circles, chasing its tail like it had lost its mind. The romantic atmosphere that Chinli and I had painstakingly built was utterly shattered by that dog. I blushed, quickly hanging up. Chinli's expression had merged with the darkness, but he still didn't give up. Taking a deep breath, he squeezed my hand again, his eyes resolute. Shui, Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The moment the words left his mouth, a large public water sprinkler truck suddenly sped past. While blaring a Happy Birthday to You remix, it sprayed water like a downpour. Chinli was at the center of the storm. He was drenched from head to toe. His white shirt stuck to his body, outlining every perfect muscle contour. Drops of water rolled from his hair, tracing his sharp jawline and dripping down. He slowly closed his eyes. His expression was as if he was about to go insane. I looked at his miserable yet aggrieved appearance. Finally, I couldn't help but laugh. I know. I like you too. Afterward, full stop after. End times, the confession was interrupted. Chinli had enough. He decisively shoved me into the car right there by the river and sped straight toward my apartment building. The car had just stopped. As I was about to unbuckle my seatbelt, he made a clicking sound, locking the central door lock. Then he circled around to the passenger side and opened the car door. His tall figure blocked the doorway, preventing me from getting out. On his face was a desperate all-or-nothing expression, as if he had decided to play his final card. Jiang Sui. He called out my full name, his voice urgent and resonant. Today I must finish saying this. I was stunned by his intensity, just staring wide-eyed. He seemed slightly flustered. Even his ears were flushed red. I admit it. I'm jealous. I can't stand seeing you smile at other people, even if that person is your own brother. He yelled in a continuous burst, his chest heaving violently. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he lowered his voice, carrying a pitiful grievance. My six-pack. You can inspect it any time. His eyes locked onto mine, tense, worried, carrying the sincerity of someone who had gambled everything. So, will you be my girlfriend? I looked at him. Looked at the man who was usually so high and mighty, now as flustered as a teenage boy. He laid all his shyness, possessiveness, and affection bare before me, unconcealed. I couldn't hold it back anymore. I burst out laughing. In his stunned and slightly hurt gaze, I unbuckled my seatbelt and stood up. Then, I tiptoed and kissed him lightly on the lips. The whole world seemed to stop. Chinli froze as if the pause button had been pressed, turning into a stone statue. I stepped back half a step, looking at his dazed expression, my eyes curved with a smile. I accept. I intentionally paused, mimicking his serious tone from moments ago, lowering my head, my voice mischievous. So, inspection of the goods first, right? Chinli's pupils contracted. The very next second, a wave of wild joy erupted in him. He hugged me tightly, squeezing me as if to merge me into his own body. The kiss that followed was fervent, intense, and powerful. It carried all the long-repressed desire. It carried the insecurity, the reserve, and the deep, long-contained love. The streetlights in the apartment complex still shone brightly. The story of me and him finally pressed the start button. The end.